I got put down in floor gangs in 2008. So that was the first time I started coming to Korea. So every year I would come in the summertime and just stay for 1 month with floor gangs in Korea and just check the scene and go to battles and jams. And then all the way until 2014, I moved to Korea and I lived in Korea for 2 years until 2016. So during that period, I saw a lot of different jams and different like Korea dance culture and stuff like that. And I think I was very lucky because during that period, I think Korea scene was very like, I think one of the best in the world at that time because there's so much going on. There is different kind of jams, there's competitions and a lot of like different style was happening during that time. And I think I was very lucky because that period, I really saw a lot of inspiration for me, for my dancing and also for my life, you know. So after 2016, I moved back to Hong Kong. And then since then, I haven't really been coming back to Korea as much. Until this year, I came back for Rock and Sensation. And obviously, I'm here today because I came for Cyber Slayer's anniversary yesterday. And what I can say, the difference between now and then, I think it's not just Korea. I think in the world, there's a big change in terms of how the scene has become now. Like not just the culture or the scene or the dance competition, everything has changed. I think in Korea, I think when I was living here, the jams was more organic. Like people come together, people enjoy the music and cyber together, and then they were all like, it's like a community back then. Everyone come and just enjoy and get down, and they don't really care too much about winning or losing. They just come as a crew or as a friends, they get down, and then if you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. It's okay. But the energy was different. Nowadays, I feel like the focus for a lot of the dancers is almost like they only caring about the results. Like if you do good in the event, then you are happy. If you lose, then you leave and you don't stay and you don't cipher, you don't hype, you don't vibe together. So I think this is not just Korea though. Like from me traveling around, this is happening, I think, all over the world. And even in the USA, in other countries in Asia, I noticed that a lot. So I think it's just we have to accept that that's the change in terms of mentality. I think people are shifting their focus now more on the competition side. So I feel like for us who've been through that generation where we saw all the good things about the jam, we have to try to change the mentality of the people and tell them, yo, just try to enjoy the jam more and less focus about just the competition. Try to enjoy. So I think that is the main change, I think, from my observation is how the scene now and back then, there's a big change in the mentality. Right. I mean, the big difference, I think, from all the scenes that you see, I think, is the main difference is in Asia. I think in Asian mentality, um, like I can use Hong Kong or Korea and Japan as an example. I think Asian culture as a mentality, we are focusing a lot about the techniques, the skills, more so than the culture side of the culture. So when I was traveling in Europe and USA in particular, is I see that people over there appreciate the culture more, like the history, the music, where the dance come from, the social aspect of it, where they interact with other people. Whereas in Asia, it's very much focused on the technique or the dance skills, like how good you are as a dancer and what skill you can do, or like how good is your power move, how good is your footwork. In Asia, I think a lot of us are more focused about the competitive side of the culture. Whereas in the West and the USA, they care more about hip hop as a whole thing, like a big culture thing. So when I'm traveling around all these places, one of the biggest inspiration I get is I can see that I take what is good from the Asia culture side, and also I take what is good from the other side, like Western and USA sides, because I think hip hop should be everything. Of course, it's important to have the culture side and to be understanding of the history, but at the same time, you should also appreciate that as a b-boy, skill is also very important. So you should have a combination of the two. If you can understand the history, and at the same time, you also practicing hard to improve your dance skill and your craft together, then I think that's more like a complete, you know, like a practitioner of hip hop should be more like a complete thing, you know. Okay, I mean, there's so much. I don't want to like. It's impossible for me to list all of the ones I remember the most, but I'll give you a few that I feel like was very memorable. Like the first one I'll talk about is more like a competition battle. So I think for me, one of the most memorable one or almost life changing was probably 2009 in Japan, freestyle session Japan. It was the first time I represent floor games together with all the international members. So we had members from everywhere, like Korea, China, UK, USA, all joined together for that battle. And I think for me at that time I was still pretty new. So I just remember being like super nervous and like basically want to make sure that I don't let down the crew. I wanted to make sure that I was able to contribute in my way as a team player or just whatever they asked me to do, I would just do. I didn't question. I just said, okay, Justin, you do the routine, or just Rock, you do solo now, or you do the like. I was just like trying to make sure that I can contribute somehow for the team's performance. So very luckily, we ended up winning Freestyle Session Japan 2009, and I think that experience of just being in that environment with all these amazing like b-boys around me in the same crew, I think that really changed how I was as a person. Like going forward, I remember just being very proud to be part of this family, and I know that whatever I do now, I need to make sure that I will always represent the crew to the fullest. So that for me was a very life changing experience in terms of a battle. But in terms of a cipher, like there's so many like cipher battles I've done over the years. But if I have to remember one, is probably the 2010 in I think it was a B-Boy Summit, or I think it was B-Boy Summit in LA, where I went there because there was a B-Boy also called Just Rock in LA at that time. I found out from YouTube, and I found out we have the same name. So, you know, like I was taught that if you have the same name, you have to battle to take the name. That was what I was taught by my teacher. Like shout out to Mouse and DJ Timber who told me like, yo, you need to represent your name. And if there's somebody with the same name, you're gonna go battle. So at that time I was living in the UK, and I was like, yo, this is like really expensive to go to LA because I was a part-time worker at that time. I don't have too much money. But I just remember B-Boy Nano from Oshade Crew. He told me, let's just go to LA. Let's go to Summit. We've never been. And then I know that Just Rock's going to be there. So I thought, okay, this is a good time for me to go all the way out there and just call him out, battle him because we have the same name. So I remember on the first day, it was a Friday night. There were ciphers everywhere, like people like K-Mel, Casper, everyone was ciphering. And I was ciphering too, and I was looking for him. I was like, where is this Just Rock guy? And then almost the night was almost finishing, and I was like, yo, I came all the way from the UK. I have to battle him. I don't care where he is. I need to find him. So in the last cipher, I remember I saw him and he was standing like behind a few people. And I was like, I went to the cipher. I was like, yo, let's go right now. I came all the way. Just Rock against Just Rock. Let's do it. So we battled like, I don't know, man, like 20, 30 rounds. And then at the end, he couldn't come out anymore. He stopped coming out, and I kept going in. So that was like I remember that was the time where I knew whatever happened in that battle, I cannot stop. I cannot give up. I cannot like lose this battle because I need to show them that who is the real Just Rock. So after that battle, the following day, it was the second day, and also there was Cypher again. And then I went to the Cypher, and he called me out again. So we battled again a few more rounds. And then I remember after the few rounds, Easy Rock coming to the cipher and he said, "Yo, this is it. You just rock. Like to me, you already win the battle and stop battling. It's done." So after that, I just feel like, oh wow, like so this is how it feels like to go out all the way to call out somebody for the name, and then that made me like really remember that experience. So after that, since then, obviously, like for those that know me, like Tino knows me, like cipher is my thing. I go to jams and I challenge myself a cipher and I call out people all the time. So, but if you have to choose some of the most memorable ones, then I think that one would be the one that I remember the most. But there's so many others that I can talk about, but I don't want to go into too much detail. But shout out to everyone that I have shared cypher with. Shout out to everyone that I've caught out and battled in the circles, because I think that is something that I think nowadays people need to try to remember, like the importance of battles in the cipher, like the art of ciphering, the art of battling in cipher needs to come back. I think so. Yeah, that's probably my best experience, bro. Yeah, so I do this interview series called A Conversation with Royalties. It's the Instagram kind of like a podcast interview thing where I kind of like talk to many pioneers in the scene who I think has a lot of history to share, who has a very interesting hip hop journey and has a big influence in the scene. So I've been doing this for a few years now, mainly because during COVID times, it was difficult to travel. So I just use Instagram as a way to talk to them and share to the world like their story. So I think there's no one particular person that I think it was fun or especially funny or whatever special moment, but I think as a whole, from my experiences, every time I talk to these pioneers, they always have something so interesting to share that maybe normal people would not expect. I'm not talking about the dance stuff. It's about their history. Sometimes they will share about when they're young, this happened to them, or some funny story that maybe is not about the dance. But I think listening and hearing about how they share about their personal life, like away from the dance, or how they grow up, or how is their family background, I think things like that actually is more interesting for us because we always look at pioneers like they are superheroes, right? We look at Ken Swift or like Paul One, they're like superstar for us. But actually, when you talk to them, you can hear that actually, wow, they are just like us. They came through the same background. They have the same childhood. Sometimes they have different childhood, but they have really interesting memories from the childhood, which help shape them to be how they are. So whenever I interview them, I always find the backstory more interesting. I always enjoy listening to people who tell me about the backstory of something, and I think that really was the most fun part that I got from talking to them. And also, like, I do some interviews where me and the guests will look back at particular battles and we will talk about what happened. I remember I did one with Tino where we talk about what happened in freestyle session Japan, and we were just watching the video together, and we were just talking about what happened. Like that is really fun because people don't really know what happens outside of the battle. And then when you talk to somebody who was in the battle, we'll talk about what actually happened behind the scene, or we'll talk about some funny thing that happened maybe just before we went on stage. Like things like that, I think is super interesting for the audience and for myself because I think that reminds people that sometimes dancing or battling on stage is not so serious. It's okay to have some fun, and there's actually funny things that happen all the time. So I think when I interview this guest, I think I really enjoy more about the behind the scenes story more than the sometimes it's more fun than the actual the dance stuff. I mean, the Olympic was dope. Like I watched the Olympics. I think it was really cool to see like breaking represented at the Olympics. I think that was really really special moment for b-boys and b-girls because I think it's the history in the making, seeing breaking in the Olympics. But I think if you to ask me what advice I would give to the new generation, going back to what I said before, I think the new generation need to understand like more about the culture side of breaking, like spend more time trying to research about the history of the hip hop culture, like where this dance come from, who are the people that is the pioneers in the scene. Try to do more research in terms of understanding where this dance come from. And to add to that, the other advice I want to give them is just like try to remember or try to understand why you are breaking. Like the breaking started was because a lot of kids back in New York they were just having fun. They break because they want to have fun. They love breaking because they just want to enjoy themselves. And I think new generation now sometimes they forget that breaking actually is about having fun and enjoying breaking before the competition. Like these guys in the 1970s, they break not because of competition. They break because they just want to get down with friends together. And the music from Cool Herc and other block parties back then make them want to get down and enjoy. Nobody was talking about competition. They were just having fun and they loved breaking. So I think my advice to new generation is like try to look for that. Like look for the reason why you are breaking. Look for the love of breaking. Don't break because of competition. That it should never be this way. It should be you break because you love breaking, and then you go to the competition, not the other way around. So I think I just want the new generation to know that breaking should be something that you love doing, not because you have to do it. Like even if there's no competition, if we take away competition today, no from now on, no more competition. You should still want to break because competition is just something that came after. Like breaking was there already. Competition came, and then yes, we can end competition. It was good, but even if you take away the competition, you should still want to break because you love breaking. It's not because you love competition. You should love breaking first before anything else. So I think this is something that I think the generation should try to understand because I think that way they will enjoy breaking for a longer time. Because one day, if there's no competition, if you really love breaking, you will still dance. You will still keep dancing. So maybe that is something that I think the new generation should think about. I think. Yeah, so I do have my full time job. Apart from dancing, I'm a counselor. So that's my full time, everyday 9 to 6 type of job. So I think for me, dancing, like having a full time job, actually helps me want to dance more because I think when you work every day 9 to 6, obviously there's a lot of stress from working and a lot of other stuff. So when I finish work and I go to dance, that for me is almost like my escape. I can leave this work life and I can be in a different planet with the b boys and the b girls, and just I know that I can just leave this and go to a different world. And this is the same when I dance, when I travel to other countries to dance. It's a good balance that I have. So because of this, I think, I mean, I'm sure all the dancers like watching this will agree. I think we will dance until we die. I think I can tell. Like, I'm sure all the dancers who love dancing will tell you the same thing. Like we will dance until our body cannot let us dance anymore. This is a fact. I think if you really love dancing, there is no limitation that you can dance until even you are 90 years old and you can only move your fingers. You can dance with your fingers. Like I think for us, because we truly love this dance, I think everyone will answer the same thing. We'll dance until we cannot move anymore. So that's what I think. Um, all right. I mean, I want to shout out to all the Korean homies out there, new b boys that I met recently, and obviously like the people that I already know, like b boys and b girls. Like it's always good. Every time I come back and I see the Korean like b boys and b girls that I've known over the years, all the way back to when I first came, I think I want to shout out first and foremost to the guys and girls that are still doing it. Like 2008, when I first came, I met some of the people in my crew, like Tino, like Koma, and a lot of other guys that since then until now, they still have the fire. They kept going until now. I think people underestimate how difficult it is for people to have the longevity to just keep going, going, going. And people underestimate that. People think it's easy to just, 10, 20 years ago you were dancing, now you're still dancing. They think it's so easy, but I can tell you, like, when life happens and you have other stuff going on in your life, it's very difficult to stay focused for so many years. So I want to shout out to all the b-boys and b-girls that has been doing it the same time as me when I came to Korea since 2008 or even longer. Like, I've known people that have been dancing for way longer than me and are still doing it in Korea and still killing it in different ways. Some of them are now teaching more. Some of them are maybe organizing events. Some of them are still battling, still ciphering. Like I want to shout out to all of those guys and girls that are still like really representing the Korean style all the time, wherever they are. And also for the new generation, like this weekend, I got to meet some new generation b-boys out here in Busan. And I think also for them, like, it's good to see that they are carry on the tradition. Like, I talked to some of them and they told me they learned from people like Born, like Tino over the years, and now they are doing their part in the scene to try and take the torch and keep going for the next generation. So I just want to shout out to everybody out here and just make sure you don't, like, don't stop dancing. And like, I talked to Tino before this interview, and one thing that we agree is like, people in the new generation, talk less, just dance, Like, talk less, dance more. I think that's important. People nowadays always talking on social media because social media is a new thing. People talk on social media. Back then, when a lot of these guys dance, there was no social media. So what can they do? They just dance. So I think the new generation can also learn from that. And don't talk so much. Don't worry so much about the politics. Just break. I think that's the best thing. Okay. Yeah. So in Hong Kong, I started like a co-started. Me and a few homies started this rock dance 852 movement, which is a new rock dance movement community in Hong Kong that we started 2 years ago. So I think in the future I want to keep growing that and try to make more awareness of the art of rocking in Hong Kong, and hope that can grow and hope more people in Hong Kong will be interested in rocking. So that's something that I will keep doing. And also I run a charity event called Break Mission that I also want to keep going in Hong Kong as well to benefit more communities and society out there. And in terms of my own personal self, though, I think my future plan is just to, I don't know, just keep being an active part of the dance community and keep contributing, keep giving back in whatever way I can. Because I know I'm getting older, but I think my future plan is just to, like I said before, to keep consistent, like keep putting in the work. Like, don't stop, or don't think that just because you're older, you cannot do the same impact in the scene. Sometimes when you're older, you know more, like you have more wisdom, you learn more over the years. So there's different ways you can contribute back in the scene. So I will still be the same way that I am for so many years. I'll still go to jams and support. I'll still get down on the cipher. I'll still call out on the cipher. I'll still come. I'll still be in the event supporting. So I think one of the best things for me in terms of future plan is just keep going. I think that's no other better plan for me than keep doing what I do and just be consistent. I think that's the key.